Okay, you ready?
All right, wonderful. Hello, everyone. Welcome to International Nanny Association is presenting myself, Alexeraye Vallejo, CEO and owner of the Mindful Nanny Collective and the Mindful Care Collective. I've been a nanny for actually going on 25 years now here shortly. I couldn't even believe it the other day. I was really like counting the numbers. And now turned owner and operator of the Mindful Nanny Collective, a place where we really bring wellness programming to not only nanny agencies, but caregivers directly within the very homes that they work with and the families who also employ them. So welcome into this space. You are welcome to comment as much as you need to in the chat box. Throw some questions in there. And at the very end of the presentation, we'll go back to those questions if you should have any additional. Also, to learn more about my programming, I popped a link into the link in my bio. Go ahead and peruse that link in the bio when we're all done here. And it'll actually guide you into a few different places where you can find some freebies and support your own wellness and well-being. And happy International Nanny Recognition Week. This is a really, really wonderful, wonderful time in our industry to be able to support one another and to really show up and celebrate our wins and our nanny agency wins and our community wins. We've been through a lot in the last 2 years. And if you are like me as a nanny, which most are, we wear many, many different hats. And in wearing those many, many different hats, sometimes our wellness can go down. In alignment with that is our productivity. So I am trained as a mindfulness, trauma-informed mindfulness teacher, and I'm also trained as a yoga teacher for both children and adults, for both mindfulness and yoga, I should say. I also train caregivers of children to become certified mindful preschool teachers and yoga teachers so that you can create a little extra income on the job while you're already there. Taken all of my passions and collided them together. I'm so happy to see each and every one of you here into this space where we're going to be talking about productivity and wellness as a nanny. My mission and my goal with the Mindful Care Collective is to serve at least 1 million nanny and parent teams to help the next generation of caregivers and children thrive in our ever-changing world. We offer both monthly memberships and 2 live virtual trainings per year. At this end of the session, I'm going to give you my gift to you as Nanny Recognition Week for coming into this training, and a little coupon code that you can use for 50% off all of my trainings and memberships for the first 3 months. So welcome into this space, and we're going to do a little bit of practice and a little bit of learning what mindfulness is as well. So I know we maybe came off of a long work day, and today should be a little bit of informative, so you can get a little background on mindfulness, but also give you some tools and takeaways, 3 takeaways you can take with you today to begin your own mindfulness practice. Whether you take my trainings or not, it's going to be a great way where you can integrate your own self-care in small daily moments, which I think is just so much more accessible as a caregiver of children. All right, to give you a little bit of background, if you were to Google mindfulness, there's going to be thousands of definitions of what mindfulness is, but some of those definitions are going to come from some of our top CEOs, leaders, medical professionals, and neuroscientists in the US and beyond. To give you a quick timeline of what mindfulness, or when mindfulness started, mindfulness was formally introduced as a medical intervention in 1979 when John Kabat-Zinn, one of my wonderful teachers, a part of my program at University of Massachusetts, created the mindfulness-based stress reduction. And this particular program was implemented, into hospitals, clinics, centers, medical centers around the world. And they've adopted these mindfulness practices to not only reduce pain and anxiety, but also stress and patience. And now mindfulness is being introduced to schools around the world, which we'll kind of get into that space in a little bit, which I think is a really important aspect to know as nannies. What can we do preliminarily, just as we would I'll go ahead and admit that person in here. Just as we would sorry, I got distracted by the Zoom admitting again. I apologize. It's important to set our children up for success, but also embody and model the behaviors that we are seeking change in. So when we look at setting our children up for success and going into the school system, some of this information might pertain to you and how you want to set your children up for success. Schools across the US in the late 2000s and the UK started offering mindfulness practices into their everyday classroom life and with students. What was really amazing is that through some of the nonprofit programming that was available out there, studies show that after the course was taken, 80% of the 7th graders calmed down more easily when upset, and 58% focused better in the classroom 40% used it to avoid arguments or fights, and 34% said it raised their grades, and 86% more kids said they should learn mindfulness. And I love that when children speak to the benefits of mindfulness, it's for us to listen to, it's for us to tune into. And similar results were actually also found in a survey of nearly 1,000 students who learned mindfulness at 8 other schools. And that particular study happened in a school system that had the highest rates of detention in the US, which I found really fascinating. There's a lot of documentary on there. If you check out the link in my bio on my Instagram, the Mindful Nanny Collective, you'll find lots of resources on my main website and documentaries that you can watch about mindfulness through some of the programming that I've been a part of in the school systems. In late 2015 through 2021, Harvard Medical Science recognized in 2015 and published an article after doing an 8-year study on mindfulness, and stress-related health problems are responsible for up to 80% of our visits to the doctor and account for the 3rd highest healthcare expenditures, behind only heart disease and cancer. But as few as 3% of doctors actually talk to patients about how to reduce stress. So as you can imagine, insert mindfulness. An example of why I want to bring mindfulness into nanny agencies and nanny associations. This was a great study that Harvard did themselves, also concluding, and this study was about a 20-year study and actually ended in 2021. Right before the pandemic, actually, which is quite fascinating. Aetna employers, the heart company that supports heart and health, who participated in the company's mindfulness program and enjoyed a 28% reduction in stress, 20% better sleep, and 19% less pain, as well as an increase in worker productivity worth an estimated $3,000 per employee per year. And now this company now offers free yoga and meditation and mindfulness classes. And I've actually been supporting some of these leaders, not only through larger corporations, but now smaller agencies as well in their own health and wellness programming. In 2001, we have now really implemented mindfulness in our education systems, and to better help teachers and school administrators support their mental well-being of their students. A Cigna Foundation, which is really wonderful. This just actually happened in April 2021. They raised and provided about $750,000 in grant and funding money to mindfulness intervention programs for school-age children. So it kind of tells you the direction that we're headed and what we need to stay on top of a part of our own continued education as nannies and caregivers. So if you can imagine a home inside of your mind, the ideal home that we would live and we'd work in, it would be including mindful nannies and mindful families as a team colliding and supporting one another. And mindfulness is really inclusive of all beings, no matter your background, your ethnicity, or your religious belief. So as mindful nannies, if we learn to embody these practices through mindful nanny trainings, we can reduce our overall anxiety on our job, the work-life relationships that we have with our nanny employers, our overall communication. The nannies who have taken our training so far in the last 2.5 years have reduced their stress by 80% and have improved their relations within the nanny home and outside of the home with their own partners and business employees. And for those nannies that had children in the home as well, saw an increase in relational productivity and connection with their children. And they felt this greater sense of ease on a day-to-day basis, empowerment in what their role was. I've also had 2 clinicians in programs that take my training for the Mindful Care Collective training in these practices, and it's helped their clinic as a whole in their dealings with children with autism and sensory and motor skill issues, which has been quite phenomenal to hear. Some folks, we've actually also done a recent study on children with ADHD and autism, and after an 8-week program, their work and their school studies performance greatly increased by 11%, which is a lot in that particular populace, with awareness that their focus and overall well-being greatly improved. And also improved for those around them, their own family members. Could you imagine this quality of life, right? The domino effect of when we do our work and then we surround ourselves and help embody and model that behavior with our family members. That continual domino effect of self-care is quite fascinating. So some simple ways to start today and develop a consistent mindfulness practice for yourself. And I tried to make this as simple as possible before we actually even practice two exercises. One, a mindfulness meditation, and then two, a productivity challenge, which I will encourage us to turn our cameras on for. So 3 easy steps into this practice. We can first, very simple, start here. So pick one activity a day that you can explore with your full attention. Perhaps that's brushing your teeth. Perhaps that's just simply washing your hands, choosing to connect with the sensations, the water, the bubbles, rather than the thoughts around the action. Be the action. That's a really simple way to allow mindfulness to stream into your everyday activities. Mindfulness is not just sitting, and while it looks like meditation, mindfulness and meditation are very different. Meditation is sitting, maybe perhaps in prayer or rest and relaxation, or a space of just working to train the mind and the thoughts. Well, mindfulness is doing the same training of the brain, but rather on a day-to-day basis with each of our actions that we take. So for example, let's put this into practice in this moment. Kind of notice if you're happening to be sitting down, notice the heaviness of the body in the chair. And then notice maybe even wiggling the toes against the floor or the ground. Then maybe even notice how your shoulders are simply stacked over your hips and your hands can rest on the tops of the knees or your thighs, or maybe even having them rub your thumb on the fabric that you're wearing on your clothes, your skin. Maybe just even noticing the hot or coldness of your fingertips or your feet, or perhaps even the difference. So that gives us a nice little drop in of what mindfulness can be in just sitting down, whether you're in an airport or you're traveling with your nanny family, or perhaps you're in the doctor office helping and supporting your nanny family, or you are just simply taking a mindful nanny break and taking a little bit of tea and enjoying that cup of tea to its full capacity. Okay, step number two. And again, you can take screenshots of these as well too, but this will also be uploaded into the YouTube on the INA website. So you're welcome to preview that, share it, like it, comment, and further connect with me as well. Okay, so step two, secondly, stopping to take a mindful breath throughout your day. And it really strengthens your ability to focus on one task or one goal at a time. We really dive deep into the breath and the brain anatomy, how it supports the executive functions of your brain and your overall health and well-being and soothing of your massage and your nervous system in the Mindful Nanny training. But we will embody that in just a little bit here. But today, really try allowing your attention and curiosity to focus on the rise and the fall of your breath, and challenge yourself to keep this focus for 1 to 2 minutes, 3 times throughout your day. It's really simply feeling and settling into those sensations of the breath. So what's rising and falling here? What parts of your body can you soften, relax, and release on the exhale? So let's actually try that here. So now bring step number 1, that kind of awareness of your body, mindfulness, if you will, into the body alignment. Notice how your posture is in your seat. Maybe even notice if there's any tightness in the shoulders, and take a big deep breath in, roll the shoulders up towards the ears, and then exhale, roll them back down until they stack right over your sit bones or your hip bones. And then just gently resting the hands on the tops of the knees or the thighs. You could even allow the eyelashes to close here if you'd like to lower the gaze and just rest the eyes after your hardworking day. Then now start to notice your breath. Maybe it's the first time you've ever really considered or thought about your breath, but can you picture your breath as it comes in through the nose and fills the low belly? And then as you exhale, the belly softens and the breath escapes the nose or the mouth. Let's do that again for 4 more rounds, noticing, almost following that breath on the inhalation, seeing what's expanding, what's rising here. Maybe it's the shoulders. Then as we exhale, the chest and the shoulders soften, the belly softens. And again, 3 more times, deep breath, and maybe making each breath just a little bit longer. Send that breath to our brain, cleanse our immune system on every inhalation, and every exhalation. We're quite literally massaging that nervous system up and down the spine, soothing the brain and telling the brain that it's okay. Take 2 more breaths here on your own. Nice long inhalations, nice long exhalations. And 1 more, deepest breath yet. And since we're all muted here, on the next exhale, maybe just sigh it all out, let it all go, whatever you've been hanging on to. Good. Now notice just how your body feels in this moment, just taking that nice mindful breath, 5 full inhalations, 5 full exhalations. And maybe even just show yourself a word of gratitude for doing the best you could in that mini practice. Good. Now flutter the eyes open, notice the sensation in the body. Really easy there. So again, step number 1, first start super simple. Something as easy as washing your hands. If you're giving the kids a bath, you're playing with the bubbles, with the loofah or the toys, or maybe you're drinking and sipping your cup of coffee. And you might, these situations can be applied no matter where you are. If you've had some conflict, perhaps, which can be regular in the domestic care home between the employer and the nanny, and maybe they just gave you a bad vibe or something right before they left out the door, which I've been there before. Maybe you have too. And you're thinking, wow, I just came in with all this good energy. It's Monday morning. I'm ready to be with the kids. What was that? And instead of building a story and around something that doesn't have anything to do with us, and it's probably quite impersonal, instead, maybe you grab and make yourself a cup of tea or coffee or something that smells good. And you can just sense into that and breathe into that, something to ground you back into the present moment. That's a quick little touch in on what you can do that's applicable in mindfulness. And again, step number 2, taking a mindful breath throughout the day. You can use that with your children too to help them calm and soothe that nervous system as well. And I promise you, the more that you embody this behavior, you will start to model this behavior. And before you know it, your kids are going to be reminding you to take a big deep breath in, which often happens. All right. And so step number 3, lastly, bring awareness to your thoughts without judging them. So really simply becoming an observer of your thoughts as if they were clouds in the sky. Now, I know that sounds really cheesy, but just like I had mentioned before, when we were talking about the story that we could get wrapped up in, right? And instead bringing ourselves back into a grounding moment, instead of creating these stories through our thoughts, rather just simply recognizing, I feel or I sense disappointment, sadness, joy, excitement, happiness, and perhaps just naming these sensations rather than creating a whole story around them. And I'll show you a little bit, we're gonna do a little activity on productivity for the brain here in just a little bit. And so finding some curiosity, I say curiosity is the name of the game as caregivers of children, but also caregivers of ourselves, and really truly trying to find kindness and compassion for ourselves, our thoughts, and others. And sometimes we can get a little carried away from time to time, creating that story, or maybe just we can simply let these thoughts come and then go. So I love this quote from Thich Nhat Hanh: breathing in, I calm my body and my mind. And breathing out, I smile, dwelling in the present moment. And I know this is the only moment. So let's do a little challenge here. If you're willing to turn your camera on, it would be much more beneficial to do this practice together to support each other. And I thank you in advance for doing that. Now, for those that might be watching the YouTube practice, thank you so much for turning your camera on. I appreciate you. And for those watching this YouTube channel later on, this is something that you can come to time and time again. And I hope that those folks that are generously turning their camera on for this particular portion inspire you to continue in your own productivity practice. Okay, so thank you so much. Nice to see your beautiful faces, everyone. Hello, hello. I love meeting nannies in our community, and it is such a wonderful space to share with each and every one of you. And if no one's thanked you for the hard work that you've done today, thank you, thank you. It's not easy that we do sometimes, right? So I definitely see you in that space. So we're going to take the foundations that we just kind of quickly learned, that mindful body. So go ahead and find a mindful body or mindful posture, maybe even rocking to the left or the right in your chair, kind of noticing the anatomy of the body. Notice if your shoulders are tight, right? Maybe we're hanging on to some stress here. And then just kind of allow that right ear to drift over towards the right shoulder. Take a big deep breath in through the left side of the shoulder. And then exhale, slide on that, let it all go. Good, and then draw the chin down towards the collarbones and allow that left ear to float over towards the left shoulder. Take a big deep breath in through the right side of the shoulder and then exhale, soften everything here a little bit more. Good, take 2 or 3 more rounds of the neck, whatever you need, take what you need, leave what you don't. And then find that mindful body, that body that's full of posture and awareness. And in this mindful body, we can just rest our hands on the tops of the knees or the thighs. And then I really invite you to either lower the gaze or close the eyes. This way we're not distracted by external visuals, just for this moment. And then notice the awareness of this breath. Notice the inhalations that come in through the nose and the long exhalations we can let go of. And really the truth here is that on every inhalation, we just bring in what we need in our next moment. And in every exhalation, we just let go of the person we were even just a minute ago, right? We're not the same person we were this morning. We are a new version of ourselves, moment by moment, breath by breath. As we put our focus, attention, and awareness just on our breath, picturing our breath as it enters in through the nose for 1, expands through the ribs 2, and that low belly gets big and floats away from the spine for 3. We'll notice the belly sink back in towards the spine for 3. The ribs knit back together for 2, and the breath escapes the nose or the mouth. And notice this never-ending cycle of the breath. And we could almost even in our mind's eye count 1 as we breathe in through the nose, 2 through the ribs. Really let that belly get big on the inhalation for 3. And then as we exhale, we can count in our mind's eye 3, belly sinks back towards the spine, 2, ribs knit back together, breath escapes the nose or the mouth for 1. Kind of this never-ending 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1 cycle. And what this is doing right now is actually calming the prefrontal cortex of our brain where our amygdala is. It's soothing and supporting our hippocampus, which is responsible for our emotional regulation, for our thoughts and processes, and our memories. As simple as that, this nice mindful breath. Let's take that for 3 more rounds, just in a moment of silence here. Maybe you haven't had silence today. Good, just focusing on that breath as it enters in through the nose and then leaves the nose. And as we train this brain to focus on one thing and one thing only, just our breath. Now let's add a little challenge to this for the productivity of our brain. And we're actually going to do, it's a brain exercise at what we're going to be doing here. But we're just going to notice when thoughts come up in the mind, and they seem to trail us off into thought around the past or the future. And every time a thought comes up that doesn't have anything to do with your breath, simply raise your hand. And then as you exhale, lower the hand and then let the thought go and bring yourself back in the sensations of sensing and picturing that breath on every inhalation as it comes in through the nose, expands through the ribs, low belly. And if you can use the 1, 2, 3 method as you count on every inhalation, exhalation, great. If it's more obtainable for you to put your focus on the sensation of the breath, then do that. So let's begin here. Every time you have a thought, you just simply raise your hand, and you'll see me raise my hand as well. And then we'll exhale to lower the hand, let the thought go, bring ourselves back into the breath and the sensations associated with the breath. Very good. Wonderful. We'll spend about 2 more breaths here. Good. Wonderful. Very proud of you. Now begin to wiggle the fingertips and the toes. Maybe even give your body and your mind just this like, thank you. And show your body and your mind a little gratitude. Now, what's really interesting about that space and using a productivity exercise, thank you for thanking yourself, that was beautiful, is this recognition that how often does our mind trail off into something else? And likely even during this presentation, it's the human behavior and human response. You may have already thought about your to-do list or what you, the child you need to lay down for nap, or the thing that you forgot to tell the nanny family, or, I got to cook dinner soon and I'm hungry and I'm super thirsty, or, whatever it might be, the mind trails off. And what we want to do is normalize this space so that the brain can feel seen and heard and tended to. And it can feel seen and heard and tended to the most through the awareness of our body, through the awareness of our breath, and then the awareness of becoming the observer that our thoughts trail off. And there's a lot of other practices that we learn in the Mindful Nanny training. There's about 12 practices. That's through mindful walking, mindful eating, mindful communication, boundaries. We talk about all of this space in a way that makes it so that you can become your own best teacher, so that you can recognize how often our minds trail off. Now, anybody who wants to speak up, you're more than welcome to share what your experience was in that space. How often did you raise your hand? Did you feel a sense of disappointment with yourself? Did anybody feel that? Maybe we could raise our hand if you felt that. I know when I first did this practice, I thought, man, I mean, I had a lot of what I would label as judgment and comparison and disappointment in myself, because how often did I do that? But when we normalize these spaces, right, when we normalize that this is how our brain operates, we can recognize that we can actually evolve into a better brain capacity. So for example, when you're playing with your children tomorrow and you're working with them, actually, let's do this challenge instead. When they're talking on and on and on about one cookie, how often can we trail off in our thoughts like, oh, yeah. But really what they're saying, they're exploring that beginner mindset. This is just the most amazing thing that they have ever experienced, and they want to tell you all about it, whether it's a toy, a cartoon, a story over the weekend about mom and dad, both moms, both dads, and whatever it might be. And how often do we trail off into, I need to get the wipes inside. I cannot forget the wipes inside the diaper bag. Or I cannot forget that today, we have a play date at 2:45, whatever it might be. And actually, so we've got the 4, we talk about this in my training too, Dr. Dan Siegel. I've taken his interpersonal neurobiology training, and I'm actually continuing to take his part 2. But when we allow a child to feel seen and heard and what they have to say matters, we actually link up in their brain in a way that builds their neural pathway so they can expand and understand that curiosity and awareness is good. So it's really fascinating. There's a lot of different things here, just as if our nanny employers, maybe we perhaps were not feeling seen and heard, and what we have to say matters. We feel left with disappointment, maybe loneliness, maybe a sense of not feeling seen or ever appreciated. And so with training like this, where we desire to bring this into nannies, I desire to bring this into nannies' lives, but also the employers of nannies' lives. I think all of this embodied behavior can really support the children that we're modeling this behavior to, which is fascinating. Okay. So some folks that have taken this training, you might have seen, if you do follow me on social media, I am predominantly, I apologize, on Instagram, at the Mindful Nanny Collective. You're welcome to follow me there, but we've got some testimonials here. Also, the link that was listed inside of the chat brings you to a page to learn more about this Mindful Nanny training. But you might recognize some of these amazing nannies: Jessie Jamboree, National Nanny. We've got Princess P and her business, partner with Nanny in the City, and also doula as well in the birth world, and Patsy Endall. And she's actually now transitioned into also doing doula training, which is really wonderful. So my gift to you guys today, thank you for not only embodying what mindfulness is, but practicing it with us, getting vulnerable with us. So my gift that I am offering, because on the heels of COVID and everything that we have been through and supported our nanny families with, it has been really, really challenging work. So for Nanny Recognition Week, I'm offering half off of both my memberships and my courses. You can find the link that is listed inside, and this is really for you guys as well, the chat box, where you can purchase that training. The training dates are here, listed here. This is given live 2 times a year. Would love to have you there. Love to be able to support you. Additionally, this includes like a one-on-one session with me for 60 minutes, a mindful registration, which takes about 15 minutes, just so you can make a complete mindful decision on what your next steps are and what kind of support you need. And that is that. So thank you. I wanted to make this really quick and supportive of you guys. Again, I'm going to pop this link in the bio for those folks that joined a little bit later. Oop, we're going to pop that in there. Look for the code. I'm also going to put this code in here as well for you. So it's going to be NRW. Okay, good. Check that out. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to pop them in the box and or pop on chat right now, and would love to connect and see how I can support you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you. Thank you. It was nice to see lovely faces in our community as well. So thanks for those folks that popped on your camera. And I completely understand for those folks that couldn't. I've been there.
I have a question for you. So I know you said you working with families as well. So
Yeah.
when you work with families, how do you teach them about mindfulness versus how is it different than when you teach caregivers about mindfulness?
Yes. So the two are very similar, but also very different. So in the for the caregivers of children, if it's mom and dad, we really and my niche is moms and dads, or I'm sorry, parents. I apologize, parents that are employers of nannies, and we talk about how to be a mindful employer to a nanny. If we really think about it, and we put our awareness hats on, a lot of these families that we've worked for never had an employee before. This is a new thing to them as well. And so through kindness and compassion, I can recognize that. And we offer just that additional little something because I want to help you guys on the back end as well, being that I've been on both sides. And additionally, the Mindful Nanny training is there's a 3-part training. So there's Foundations 1-on-1, where you embody that training. That's an 8-week live, the one that we listed here, 100 hours. And that comes with recordings. It comes with workbook pages. We meet 2 hours live each week, and then we have 1 4-hour silent retreat in that space. So you're really embodying that behavior and also modeling it, which is the whole concept of mindfulness itself. That's where the true transformation happens. The following 2 trainings that I offered, so there's 101, 102, you can become a certified yoga and mindfulness instructor for children. And then the third and final training is you can become a mindful preschool teacher for families. So then you can take all of this information through making it your own in your own embodied way and add reliable income while you're already on the job, which is really beneficial.
Amazing. Do
Yeah.
you have a course or anything for parents to teach mindfulness to their own children?
Yes, I do. It's a very similar programming. And a lot of families will hire me one-on-one, and I come into their homes or I meet with them virtually now since COVID. And I help kind of establish like a routine that's going to be supportive of them, that's going to help them. And I coach nannies on how to take that business and amplify it. So I've got a little sector niche where it's the Mindful Family Facilitator. And those nannies that have graduated from all 3 programming, we can use those coaching sessions and that training at 6 months long. We create your own curriculum that works best for you, but that's later down the line after you finish all 3 of those trainings.
Amazing.
To support that, and families can take that as well.
Very cool. I think that's amazing. For your membership, what do they get for the membership if they decide to do the membership?
Yes. I love this. So the membership has been really neat actually to see and evolve. But I offer virtual yoga classes and mindfulness classes. All classes are uploaded into a membership platform that you can access from any mobile device. So if you need that quick little 15-minute mindfulness meditation while the kiddos are napping, or if you want to connect with community, I offer all of these classes live and you can book them. And for those that can't make the live, they're all recorded. But for the live classes, I'm always available for 15 minutes of free coaching. And if I don't have your answers for you, I have 2 webinar and coaching sessions a month with other providers and myself. You can submit your questions anonymously in that space if you'd like to. And then you get those as members. You get your answers prioritized and answered for yourself on those calls. Those are also uploaded into the membership, so you can access those at any given time. And I also offer discounts on my courses and self-care workshops 4 times a year that are free to you. And you can always invite a friend each month, a buddy pass, a new friend into that space as well, just so you guys can kind of have fun. It's fun to do like virtual nanny yoga and mindfulness, and you can keep your screen off, which is really nice, and just do your own thing. But it's quite a lovely little wellness package. So if you know any nanny agencies or parents, and I've got some parents that have been paying this for their nannies, which it's been really encouraging to see the parents are supporting their nannies.
I love that. I like the fact that the 2 of the people that you like showcased are birth workers, because I feel like this is something that birth workers, especially doulas who work with moms or birth parents, can really utilize to help, with you have all those hormones and the postpartum and everything, and really like bring all that down and help heal like on multiple levels. Like I really love that.
Yes. That's a big goal of mine in the next 2 years. Like I have some more quarter goals ahead of me, quite a bit, but it's to create one for birth workers. I can basically take the same thing and apply it into that space, but slightly different, being that I was also a birth worker for about 5 years. So.
Amazing, amazing. Does anybody else have any questions? If you don't want to come on, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, if you don't want to get on screen or use your voice, you're welcome to type it also.
Wonderful. I've got some direct messages in here, so thank you guys so much. Thank you for the words of praise. It was super kind of you. I'm looking forward to learning more. Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, I'd be absolutely happy to connect with you. Wonderful. Just to answer those, because you direct message it, I didn't want to put a call out on the names, but
yeah, perfect. I'm trying to think if I have any other questions that we should talk about. I'm trying to think.
I will say in this training, I get really nerdy. I'm a huge brain nerd, and I love how mindfulness is. It can really rewire and shape the brain, and it's pretty phenomenal what it can do. I'm going to be starting a book club soon, so if that's helpful, if you're like, I'm not quite ready for a mindfulness training, these book clubs can help us kind of keep accountable and the more leading signs of mindfulness, and they actually are incredibly helpful in speaking to families about this. So if the families are like, no, that's training is not for me, I don't have time, we often kind of meet that wall. At least we can take these tidbits from the book and share them with other nannies, which can be kind of fun.
I love that. I love also that it's evidence-based, right?
Yes,
So that's super important. I feel like, especially like being a nanny, to like bring in the evidence that backs up what you're doing and what you're teaching. So
yes,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I'm not, yeah, it's very important to stay on top of that space too, which is why I continue to take the continued education courses that I'm taking. It's fascinating what we're learning now about children's brains. It's so neat.
Well, I know I love books like the Whole Brain Child and that kind of stuff.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I was really lucky because Dr. Dan Siegel and Tina, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting how you say her last name. But anyways, they were here for a training, or they were in Portland, Oregon. I just recently moved to Hawaii, but they were doing a training there, and I took that, and it was just like mind blowing to be around that fun energy of neuroscience of the brain, what's happening with children.
Amazing. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, go ahead, Mara.
Hi, Mara.
Are you?
Hello, everyone. That's very interesting to hear this. And how I connect this with my many years of swimming. That's one of my meditations when I swim. So this exercise of inhale and exhale, and also I practice now yoga. So that's very interesting. And I have one comment and one question for you. My comment is along your speech, you said that you train families that have never had employees. So how to train them, how to navigate this new scenario in their lives. That's a very important that I noticed in my own job along many years, how families, even execs that have high positions, many people under their belt that they have to manage on the corporate side, when it comes to home, they don't know how to manage us. They don't know how to bring the same or something either close what they should treat us as employers, as employers to treat us as employees. And so I wanted to congratulate you to bring this, to treat us as real professionals that we are. And my question is, when you were saying like to be fully integrate with the kids, with the example that you gave about telling about the cookie, how excited they are, and you are thinking many other things. So my question is, how about when kids eat watching TV, playing games, and the families think, oh, it's the only way that they're gonna eat. So how, could you elaborate a little bit more about this so much stimulation that we have that in my understanding don't let us focus in ourselves, in our breath, in our thoughts, and let it happen. We always must be bombarded with so many other things at the same time.
Mhm. So you're, and I heard three different things there. So I heard around the mindful eating and parents using distraction as a way to support maybe what they're trying to get through in that moment. And I also heard like we're constantly bombarded by things that are happening around us, and how do we find that space and wellness? And so tell me, what specifically can I answer out of those three?
No. It's more in a general way,
Yeah.
like, and the example of the kids eating with TVs around or any electronics around is just an example of how we bring this mindful way to recognize our own bodies and feelings with this excessive information that comes to us. And I think that it distracts us from ourselves as well, my understanding.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Distractions will always, just like change will always be a constant in life, so will distractions. And the one key into speaking on how we can come up and solutions for our own nanny families in this distracted age is to embody it ourselves. So this week, perhaps maybe even anybody still watching, actually, find something right now in the room that you're in that brings you joy. It could be the way that the light filters in through the room. It could be a particular art piece, or just as simple as a color on the wall. And allow yourself just to put your focus there, paying attention to whatever it is that you found that brings you ease and joy. And just allow your body to feel that, to sense it, to absorb it. And as silly as that sounds, just also notice through your own compassion, humanity, and grace how hard it was to keep our focus on that without getting distracted. And why are we doing this? What is this for? Do I still keep going? Like all these natural human questions that come up in the mind. And the more we're able to embody that practice, the more we'll have compassion when we want to speak into our families' lives, for example, around building a space of curiosity of how could we get, instead of using the TV as distraction, how about we use conversation as a healthy distraction and talking about this food at the dinner table? And everybody, wow, did you see how beautiful this orange is? Where did this orange come from? Can you imagine that this orange, we found it, usually it's like, oh, the store or the counter or the pantry. Oh, where did it come further from that space? Okay, so curiosity, kindness, and compassion sprinkled on anything, and embodiment yourself will teach you how to speak to these roles. So this orange came from, California, and somebody picked it there, and someone planted it there, and then someone cleaned it there, and then it got baggied, and then it got put in a particular kind of container that made it all the way to the store here in, for example, Oregon versus California. That's really fascinating, how much we can get curious about, whether it's the light and how it brings us joy, or if it's our food. So first, I always say, embody your own practice before you ever speak to it to your families. And what that means is that, you sit at a meal by yourself and without any distractions yourself, no cell phone, no TV, maybe I love music, but maybe no music. And just sitting there and actually being with your food and eating it, and notice how challenging that can be for yourself. And then do that for 3 weeks and then speak to it, because when those questions arise, that's when you become the teacher of becoming the children's own best teacher, if that makes any sense. So when we embody something, we become our own best teacher. And when we embody something, we can also help guide, the children or the families trying to also navigate what is mindfulness. And if we, like, it's similar to potty training, if we don't introduce it in a kind and compassionate way, and we maybe add judgment to it or something else like that, it's a lot harder to get back on track into what that space is. So if you're introducing mindfulness to children and to families that don't really know what it is, play is the name of the game. Wow, look at these beautiful flowers as we throw all the petals around. Wow, look how they spread out, and they're just so beautiful. Let's pick them up and look at their vibrant colors. That's a really easy, tangible mindfulness practice. My water bottle, oh my goodness, look how it feels. Look at that sound. What does it have inside of it? That everything is for our taking around mindfulness. That's and the awareness and the sensations of the body can be very helpful too, because that starts to signal what you learned in this training is our body is sending signals to us far before our actions ever are. And the more we choose to tune into our body and the awareness of what our body is speaking to, then we get to, over a period of time, understand why we grab for the cookie at 11 o'clock at night, or react versus respond to children when we're highly stressed because we didn't tune into the trigger from their nanny employer, for example, early in the morning. That was a long-winded way of answering that question, but I think that it kind of gives a
Thank you.
full circle.
Thank you very much.
I love that example. And I love how you brought in like the different senses and all of that. That's amazing. I love that. I just lost, your voice, by the way, just is so calming.
Thank you.
Does anyone else feel that way? I'm like so calmed by your voice.
I get that a lot, which is so funny because I didn't ever think that was going to be, never crossed my mind before I went into teaching this, which is so funny.
Yeah, no, it like literally makes it like perfection because it's so unbelievably calming.
Okay.
So for people so I know you're doing the book club.
Yes.
But if anybody wanted to start reading a book to learn a little bit about mindfulness before they, jumped into your course, what would be a book or two that you would recommend that they would start on?
Okay, so I will I'm going to pop my link in the bio. Oh yeah, and here we have to do like HTTP. So the Mindful Care Collective.com. If you go just to the spelled that. If you go to the mindfulcarecollective.com, there's going to be a resources tab there. And on the resources tab, if you scroll down, you're going to see a bunch of like scrolls, and you'll see some books that are listed in there. Mindfulness for Beginners by John Kabat-Zinn are really easy reads just for you as adults, if that's what you're wanting. Whole Brain Child is also a really great resource where it taps into mindfulness and the science behind it, which is really fascinating. I've got more books that are listed on there too. Right now, my brain is.
Do you have books that you recommend for children, for like kids reading? Like I know we got really into books lately.
Yeah.
And I would love, I'm trying really hard to like make his library very, full of like all different theories and ethnicities and genders and everything. So are there any kids books that you would recommend?
Yes. So also, I believe I gave you guys a Subscriber Hub link as a free offering. It's like a free membership for nannies, that which I believe was going to be put underneath this book, but also you can find this on my website if you kind of scrounge around, or also directly on social media. But I have an entire list. Both Nanny Miss Monique and I partnered on creating diversity and inclusion books on mindfulness. I also offer this in my training. I have a whole huge book resources and diversity inclusion around mindfulness section that is a part of the training in that space. It's really, really important to me. And so in that space, there are book selections for children. Like there's a whole PDF printout. There's like, I think there's 50 different books that are on there. Also, Christopher Willard, I just recently did a author interview with him, both Nanny Miss Monique, and I also did that with him through Sounds True Publishing. Dr. Christopher Willard, look up this book called The Spaces in Between. He also has a few other books that are really wonderful, but this is his most recent book. You can check out that interview actually on the Mindful Nanny Collective on Instagram. And if you look under my IGTVs, you'll see a part 1 and a part 2, and it speaks to this book. It's one of my favorite new mindfulness books for children. And actually his kids are helping him develop more books. It's really exciting. They had some input on this book, and I believe it challenges the adult mind just enough to get curious, which I've been looking for so long. I'm so excited because it reframes it for the adult while they're reading it for the child. And it's really, really cool space to kind of play with your kids and get a little curious, and each family dynamic will be a completely different answer. So Christopher Willard, The In-Between Spaces.
I love that. And would you mind telling everyone your Instagram handle, so that way if they want to follow you and check out your resources and things like that, and also maybe verbally say your website, just because the chat won't go into the YouTube.
Yes. So check out the mindfulcarecollective.com, THE mindful, MINDFUL care collective.com, and go ahead and check that out. You can find a bunch of resources on there. I'm constantly updating that website. And then through that website, it'll link you into my free subscriber website where you can find all sorts of resources under the free subscriber hub. There's also community live meditations that I offer for free on Mondays for caregivers of children specifically. I just started that 2 weeks ago. So feel free to join that space. It's completely free. It's 15 minutes. You could be with your nanny kiddos and just, they could be kind of, a lot of my pictures and stuff show kids running around because that's how it is. But at least you're modeling that behavior. At least you're doing the best you can to check in that space. And I also offer free caregiver coaching as well, 2 times a month. You can find all of those resources on the mindfulcarecollective.com or on Instagram. I have 2 Instagrams, the Mindful Nanny Collective, at the Mindful Nanny Collective, THE right before that, and then also at the Mindful Care Collective. And through the INA YouTube channel, you'll also find other videos on how to become a mindful nanny, how to introduce this into your family's lives. I've done lots of presentations, so feel free to check those out. And I look forward to connecting with you. If you were in this particular training, please reach out to me on Instagram. I'd love to connect with you and just chat with you.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. And I myself am gonna go and check out all the resources because I'd love to bring in some mindfulness to my parenting style with my son.
Yes.
I'm interested, totally interested in the yoga too, because I've actually been telling him, oh, we should do yoga just to kind of break up the day. So that's exciting that you do one with
Yeah.
kids and stuff. I love that. So I'm definitely going to be checking things out. So
awesome. Thank you. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm constantly updating and changing things, and I'm working on some new marketing. So that's kind of exciting and fun.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any other questions? Everybody's been kind of quiet. So if you have any other questions, now is the time to ask them.
It was so nice to see those that popped on. And is it Mara? Is it Mara? Thanks for your thank you for your question. It was so lovely to meet you. And Juliet, so nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And everyone too. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Bye, Mara.